Today we're ranking characters' helmet hygiene. You heard right. For some characters, a helmet is more than protection. It's their identity, it's their history, it's their culture. So we're going to be ranking these characters against lore, against canon. Does keeping the helmet off or on make sense in universe or out of universe? Or did keeping the helmet on go against the story? That's the criteria we're going to use to judge these characters today. So let's get to ranking something. Okay, so we're going to start at the very bottom of the tier. I call this tier, why did you bother putting the helmet on? At the very bottom, it has to be Paramount Plus's Halo series, specifically Master Chief, played by Pablo Schreiber. Master Chief's lore inside the Halo universe specifically is that he never takes his helmet off. The whole purpose of Master Chief not taking his helmet is that you, the player, can envision yourself as Master Chief. So imagine how pissed off fans were when the very first episode of Halo, Schreiber's face is out there bare naked, right? He took his helmet off in the first episode. It didn't even last one episode. And from then on, it was helmet off all the time. A lot of fans were obviously upset about this. There were plenty of videos that were made, and Halo eventually was canceled. And people always point to the fact that not only is it because Pablo Schreiber took his helmet off, obviously, but it's because that indicated other problems with the show. Basically, it did not follow canon. It did not respect lore. So even though I enjoyed the Halo show, and I personally enjoyed Pablo Schreiber's version of Master Chief, I understand the fans' outrage, so he got to go to the bottom of the list. Now, right above in this tier, above Pablo Schreiber's Master Chief, I'm gonna put Snake Eyes. That's right. You know Snake Eyes that I grew up watching on G.I. Joe? Silent assassin, never said a word, never saw his face. Well, guess what? In G.I. Joe Origins, that's that movie that came out about Snake Eyes, I didn't even watch the movie, honestly, because when I saw the trailer, I saw Snake Eyes was not wearing a mask, and he was very yappy. So that alone turned me off, and I said, this is not the Snake Eyes that I know from the series. So I never felt the urge to actually watch G.I. Joe Origins. Put it in the comments. Is G.I. Joe Origins worth watching? I don't know. I didn't see it. The minute I saw that Snake Eyes was basically a decent-looking dude who just walked around with no mask and it was talking, that turned me off, and I'm like, this is definitely not the character that I grew up watching on G.I. Joe. So right above Master Chief, I'm gonna put Snake Eyes from the G.I. Joe Origins movie. And the last slot for why did you bother putting on the helmet anyway goes to Judge Dredd 1995, specifically to Sylvester Stallone's Judge Dredd. Now, this should have been a huge big red flag in 1995, but Sylvester Stallone was a pretty big star back then. So this really surprised any of us that Sylvester Stallone's Judge Dredd took his helmet off all the time during the movie. At the time, I wasn't a big fan of Judge Dredd, so the more I read about the comics and the lore and the canon, and I saw that Sylvester Stallone basically never respected that at all in the movie. And I'm not just going to put it on Sylvester Stallone, but the producer, the director, I can see the producer of the movie saying, what do you mean he doesn't take off his helmet? It's Sylvester Stallone. Why do you think we're paying him millions of dollars? So that's probably why Sylvester Stallone didn't put on the helmet and keep it on. So even though the movie is okay, and I look back and I enjoy watching that movie, he got to go in the, why did you bother putting on the helmet anyways here? So we're moving a little bit higher in the tier list right now. This is like the middle zone, and I call this part of the tier list Helmet Sins. It's basically characters who mostly respected the lore, the canon of their in-universe, but they took off their helmet at times, and I'm like, why'd you do that? So right dead in the middle of the tier, I gotta give this slot to the Mandalorian himself, Pedro Pascal's Din Djarin. And I gotta admit, the fact that they wrote themselves into this corner is very puzzling. Because if you look at Star Wars and the Mandalorian lore specifically, like the Mandalorians take their helmets off all the time. So it's very interesting to write this specific part of the lore about this cult, or better yet, this group of Mandalorians who are very faithful to not taking off their helmets. Because if you look at Bo-Katan Kryze, who's played by Katie Sackhoff, like her Mandalorian takes off the helmet all the time and there's no problem. She even looks at Jin and says, you're part of a cult, right? You don't take off your helmet. So the fact that after all that, Pedro Pascal's face showed up twice during the series, I found that shocking because you basically created this box, you put the Mandalorian in this box, and then he stuck his head out and showed us his face twice. And yes, I will admit, the reason that when he did take off his helmet, in story, it made sense because he had to infiltrate a base, and if he had his Mandalorian helmet, they would definitely know that he wasn't supposed to be there. So he took off his helmet, even though it was a great struggle for him, an inner struggle that he had, but he took took it off nonetheless. But online, a lot of people were saying that Pedro Pascal, the actor, this was like a rumor that was going around, that he being a star wanted to show his face because The Mandalorian was like a big hit. I don't know, but the people were saying that at one point. So the fact that he took off his helmet, it did go against the code, but they also made him repent in story and he had to do all these actions after. So I'm gonna give Pedro Pascal's Mandalorian credit for that because he did break the code in universe, but they recognized it and he did have to go through redemption for it. So that's why he's in the middle of the tier. I still enjoy this show and I really like this character, so I'm not gonna hold it against him that much. Now this is like an honorable mention I'm gonna throw in here. Kylo Ren, like he wanted to have a helmet, but he just like didn't wear it at all. He just smashed it somewhere and then he picked it up later. So even though I'm not sure if for him wearing a helmet was anything more than him like wanting to connect to the dark side, specifically to Darth Vader and his roots. But the fact that Kylo Ren just had a helmet on like for 5 seconds and he threw it away. So the fact that it wasn't like a really big deal for him to wear the helmet, but he had the helmet. So I'm gonna give him credit for at least trying to have a helmet, even though he didn't like really stick to wearing the helmet. So I guess a little bit of kudos for that. So I still put him like underneath the Mandalorian. So I just want to throw an asterisk right here, okay? So let's move a little bit further up the list. Okay, so we're moving up another tier. Now we're at the top tier. I call this tier the Helmet Kings. And it should be no surprise that I just mentioned Kylo Ren, because one of the Helmet Kings of all time, and a classic Helmet King, has to be Darth Vader. That's right, Anakin Skywalker himself. The man never took his helmet off ever. Now, I will give it to him that he needed to breathe and live, so it was his life support system. So he couldn't take off the helmet or the suit because it was part of basically breathing and living, what he wanted to continue to do. Yes, he could sustain himself with the dark side of the Force, according to YouTubers' videos I've seen. But yeah, Darth Vader, he really held on to that helmet. It wasn't until he was literally dying and he wanted to connect and have some last moments with Luke, his son. So I really got to give it to him in that commitment. Like, Darth Vader is the original Helmet King. So we got to salute the OG helmet wearer, Darth Vader. Now we're at the very top of the list. This is the last Helmet King. Hit the subscribe button, guys. Hit the like button if you enjoy this list. I'll make some more tier lists. Who knows? So yeah, so the very top of the list for me has to be 2012's Judge Dredd, specifically Karl Urban's Judge Dredd. The man had his helmet on tight. The man was committed. All you saw was the bottom of his face, and you can tell all his acting happened in this area right here. And according to rumors and things that I've seen online, apparently Judge Dredd, I'm gonna call him Judge Dredd because Karl Urban never broke character between takes. The man went to the bathroom with the helmet, believe it or not. That's what they're saying online. So I gotta really give it up to that level of commitment, to the level of commitment to the character, to respecting the canon, respecting the lore. So yeah, Judge Dredd 2012, Karl Urban, he's the very top. I'm gonna give it to him. He is the Helmet King. I would give it to Darth Vader, but just because of my age and how close I like the Judge Dredd film, I'm gonna give it to Judge Dredd, but I can see how some people might think Darth Vader might be the very top because he's the classic old. So yeah, Darth Vader, Judge Dredd, they are the Helmet Kings, and I salute both of them for their commitment to lore and for in-universe storytelling. Did I miss anyone who wears a helmet? Put it in the comments. Let me know, like, what list or what order would you have put these characters in? If it's different, maybe we'll make a second tier list and we'll add them. As always, that's just the Tone Show. Hit the subscribe button. Tone Show out.